Most men are auditioning for people who aren't even watching. I'm one of the prime examples of this. From a young age, I was the high and mighty, good guy, good ethics, everything proper in society where, I'll be nice to new people, say hi, hello, be friendly, warming. Basically they should know, like, if you need a friend or want a friend, I'm that guy. I was basically quoted as the welcoming committee for all new people in like school or what have us, right? Whether you call it high school, college, whatever. And the reason was simple. I genuinely thought this is the right thing to do, right? But break that down, right? What is the right thing here? For me, I thought, okay, doing the right thing equals people are either going to praise you, people are going to think that, hey, this guy's a good guy. And indirectly, it's like a selfish thing for me to be totally outward and externally pleasing, right? But in the end, it's for me to receive the personal internal accolades by other people. So it's not like I was being nice out of just, being naive. It was almost like internally, it's an ego thing of, if someone, remembers there was such a nice interaction with me. Oh, he's such a nice guy. Oh, he's so funny. He's so welcoming, right? Like it basically was what? It's me gaslighting myself into saying this is the right thing and this is the reason why. But when you realize, like, okay, so someone compliments you. Maybe someone tells another person, wow, that guy is a nice guy, he's a good guy. Like, I used to think that carried some value. Not saying it doesn't, right? Societal acceptance does. But when we mean most men, including myself, right, auditioning for people who aren't even watching, it's like you literally are trying to be a certain, you know, literally like the person who gets casted, right? There's usually requirements in a movie or a TV show, like, hey, it must be, this type of height, this type of skin color, this type of accent, this type of whatever, right? So like those type of things, you basically are trying to check all the boxes, as was I, right? So every day I'd be like, I'm gonna, example, shower every day, brush my teeth, like obviously look presentable, comb my hair, shave ideally, wear a button down shirt, maybe it's tucked in, maybe it's not, the shoes, the belt, like you're basically looking like that role, right? But if that's the audition, what is the role you're going for, right? And so for me, I used to tell myself, hey, I'm going for like a businessman, CEO. Since a young age, I used to say, this is who I am. And those type of folks, they're dressing, let's say, in suit and tie. Maybe they talk a certain way, they walk a certain way, they greet people a certain way. The words that they use, the inflection, like all those things, I would practice learning them as if I was basically you're auditioning for the role to get it in the end. But the thing is, when you're doing that in a system, a fishbowl, whatever you want to call it, right? Let's say there's one room and then there's the rest of the world. You could be the best person, right, auditioning, practicing in this room where no one's watching. And so what's actually happening here, right? Yeah, maybe you are going to be the best fit for the role, but you don't have the person that's looking at you like to choose you, to pick you from the pot. In other words, imagine if you went your whole life doing the right thing, whatever that is, right? And that outcome at the end, what do you expect? If you're doing the right thing, there shouldn't be any outcome. But if the right thing for you is, say, if I do these steps, then this will happen, right? Or the chance likelihood of this happening is so high that I'm going to do this, keep doing it, right? But if you're on the train where you're like me, where in my youth, right, in my formative years, like middle school, high school, college, etc., right, even in my 20s, what happened is I would be that nice guy, warm guy, welcoming guy. I'd be the nicest guy to be what? Just to know that, hey, if you're comfortable, then that means I've won. What did I win? Nothing really, because that new person, like I feel, wow, they must feel warm in their heart knowing me. But it's not like I needed something or wanted something from them, but indirectly it's societal's acceptance, right? So in the end, I'm spending time for what? Just like you may be spending time for what? So a lot of people spend time, but you're not actually on the stage, right? Or in the casting room where you get selected for that thing, right? So a lot of people are acting, the way they want their life, ideally to be, expecting a different outcome. So if you're going to do the same activities of, hey, I'm going to watch Netflix, there's a TV behind me, this camera, I'm going to, watch streaming services, I'm going to just waste my time, dilly-dally, play video games all day long, all the things. Like, if that's your version of auditioning for a really, role that doesn't have that as a day-to-day, that's probably not aligned, right? And so the thing is, though, people will do the inverse. They'll say, hey, like, I'm going to, study to get a job, to then get, this six-figure income if I have an engineering degree, which it's not always guaranteed, but let's say. And then after that, you work for X number of years, and then you're like, yeah, I have this money, and I'm going to do something with it. I don't know what, but I'm doing the right thing. Society's going to love me. Everyone's saying, wow, great job. You have a job. You have a 9 to 5. You're keeping it down. Wow, mortgage. It's tough to keep up a home. You're keeping good job. Good job. Like, so who are you doing this for, right? That's the applause of the audience for the audience that you want? Question mark, right? That's the question. Are these the people you want to be performing to each and every day? I used to be a theater actor. So if I was performing on stage to people that, if they just didn't like me, right, that's a different thing. But let's just say it's the people that, hey, is there after this production, right? Let's say it's Hamilton or whatever, playing for 3 months out of some, Broadway-esque theater. If the people that come there, right, are just people we're performing to, right, and it's me doing the action of acting for love and I get money as a byproduct for my life, and I'm happy with it, everyone's happy, great. But if you're performing for an audience with, I'll use a job example, right? If you've ever worked a job where you don't like your coworkers or the environment or something like this, in that environment, some people are like, okay, especially new entrants into the workforce, right? So I joined this job. I don't like it. Why don't you like it? Well, I see my boss and they're working late nights. So like my boss's boss works the weekends too. And my boss, they told me about this time that they work on Christmas Eve. And it doesn't really gel with me, that this is what I think I want. And so are you telling me, Mr. Boss, Mrs. Boss, like, hey, if I get promoted, then this is what my future looks like, and then more and more. And then lo and behold, that's usually what it is. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Working 24/7. But my ideology in this, right? Just think about the frame of reference, right? I've been through an experience where it's like you see right in front of your eyes people that are 20 years with the firm, right? Very high up in the company, earning great, whatever salary you could say, and hopefully they've been saving, investing along the time, but they could just be gone like that. So the people you're auditioning for in a job, it could be your coworkers, it could be your higher ups, approval, but in the end, the company, the shareholders, depending on what type of company you're at, it's all about business, right? It's black and white, it's money, it's P&L, profit and loss. It's not about you. So in other words, for me, if I was working in this system, right, like a corporate America 9 to 5 type of job, I looked at it like, yo, 10 years from now, you could be gone. 30 years from now, you could be gone. Sure, there's a severance package and all of this. But the system you're playing in, if you're at the very quote unquote top, if this becomes your life, right, because now your job is your life because you are upholding the business being a higher up. In other words, it's not the owners or the founders that may be running the show through process and delegation. It's like, hey, these, managing directors, partners, they'll be managing everything. And under them, maybe there's a structure. So all of that to say, if you're in that system, right, where you're auditioning basically to become partner one day or become maybe C-suite, right, if that's what you want, understand that for me it doesn't work because this capping of salary exists. The salary cap could be X. But if you have your own business and you work those hours, it feels that sky's the limit. Like nothing's guaranteed, right? If you try to start a new AMD Nvidia today, or Facebook and Google or Snapchat, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it could happen. And it's all about the bet that you want to take on yourself. In other words, if you have X number of hours to practice for your audition, in my own experience, there's only so many roles you can apply for, and if you're actually booking a gig, like successfully, then you're kind of blocked off for some time. You can't really, let's say audition every day because maybe you got to be every day on set at a certain time. You can't take up every single trial or tryout, right? Every audition. So if you could only audition X number of times in your life, just think about it like that, just like how time is finite, what are those roles you would go for? What are the roles where when you perform, you are so strong about yourself? It doesn't feel maybe it's a role. Maybe it feels this is who I am. That's the part that I was missing for the longest time because I didn't feel good. Rather, I didn't feel good with myself when I was introducing myself to people to be that nice guy because I felt good in the moment. But somewhere deep inside, I was like, eventually, right after the haha, hee hee, hello, like smiles, and that's all the dopamine that's needed when you're a kid, you realize like, is someone really ever going to be there for you? And it's okay that they're not, right? And that doesn't mean you shouldn't be nice because they're not. But when I see X number of people, like throughout the journey of, being this open guy, it's like when the world doesn't care about you, it doesn't mean like nobody cares about you. It just means the world is the world. Like this plant, it exists. It's here. It's alive. And I'm happy. I can use it in the set. If it dies one day, it's probably not going to be in this frame. Now that's a really crappy thing to say, but it's not really choosing this audition. Like, we're owners of the plant, let's just say, right? But when it comes to humans, who owns you, right? Like, now let's not get into philosophy and religion, but like, who owns you, meaning like if your brain is the thing in this physical world that owns you, right? It owns your time, owns your decisions, everything. And if you are your brain, right? And if it's just a battle between my brain says to chill, it says don't work out, it says eat junk food, and then the consciousness says, but I should do better, I should be better. Like, that's your own internal thing, right? Topic for a different video. But all of that to say, if the brain is telling you this is the right thing to do, this is the safe thing to do, this is how you need to earn money, this is how you need to, do whatever, right? Like, it's fine, right? But are those the inputs, if there was an actor competing for a role, are those the inputs to get chosen for the role? So a lot of people are acting for roles that they don't even want. Fast forward, it becomes a quarter life crisis, a midlife crisis, so, whatever, 40-year-olds, that is a midlife crisis. So like all of that stuff, right? Like, it's all in the head. You don't need to be accepted. You can be yourself. And in this video, because it's our channel here, I'm not saying can, I'm saying should. You should own yourself. You should own the authority behind yourself. Like, knowing, hey, I am going to make a decision to do something. And that something is because I have the confidence and power and foundation to do it, but also maybe do the next thing. In other words, what does that mean in English? It means, hey, I have the resources, I have the tools, I have obviously the courage and the confidence. So you have your own self, you're strong. And maybe tools you need around you, right? Like, obviously this plenty still needs to be here. This couch needs to be here for me to record. Like, obviously the sun is out. Like, all these things need to support, sure. But if it didn't, I would figure out a way to record this video. So like, in the same way, if you have a deliverable, a task, an action, like, how do you best do that? That's why they say, hey, make sure your environment is like clean, it's pristine, it's good for you to do the thing because you can think more clearly, because now there's less decisions in front of you to filter through to get to the same endpoint. So if you're acting to yourself, you're just fooling yourself, is basically the point of this video. And if you fool yourself, who is the fool in the end? Yeah, others can get fooled, but you're fooling you are the fool. I was the fool, right? And as I talk in this, I am the fool in other decisions in my life, but I have to own that and I have to work through that. I have to think, how can I not be the fool in this audience's eyes? But I'm definitely not the fool I know in many other audiences' purviews. So I'm confident about my decisions, but it took a lot of trial and error, and I know you can do it too. And in the same regard, right? If I said, hey, I'm going to work, a 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that if you want to I want to make $2 million, average blended over the next 25 years, right? That's $50 million. Usually in the business example, how that goes, right? It's not always guaranteed, but let's say it happens. Maybe it is first, I'm just making it up. About 5-10 years, maybe it's, a little positive, negative, or maybe it's just negative. But eventually, hopefully there's a breakout, a hockey stick as they call it in the graphs. And 50 mil comes maybe from like, okay, a lot of trial and error. And maybe I'm just, again, you got to understand the example here. For a successful business case, maybe in the last 7 years, right? Maybe there's an uptick, hey, 750K, then it goes, 1.5 mil the next year. And then maybe it's 3.75. And then it's boom, like 16.75. And then one more big tick, maybe 25. And then maybe it teeters on, maybe, right? Or maybe the product is great and it keeps scaling. Amazing. What does that mean? That means if you work in a job, you may get, example, 100K, 150 or 50K or whatever the salary number is, but it's not like it's going to be, hey, here's 15K for your 9-to-5. No, it's like then people wouldn't do it. They'd go work at McDonald's or anywhere else where there's no actual extra quote-unquote stress. But now if you say, okay, 85K a year, okay, fine, 200K a year, right? 200K times 25 years is how much? It's 5 mil, right? Great, but it's nowhere near 50 mil, and it's 5 mil pre-tax. And if you save everything, then you have maybe whatever's left over. So you can have a 50 million portfolio by investing things correctly on a 200K salary and all the things, right? But it's about that answer. Like, what do you actually want? What are you looking for? What is your rich life, right? And so all of that said, like, how are you going to get to the goal? In other words, don't fool yourself. If you have to put yourself in one system and you want a different outcome and it probably isn't going to happen, then it's probably not going to happen, right? So you have to switch. You have to say it's okay. You have to say, hey, it's not okay to just please whoever the heck you're pleasing, if you are, right? Or getting someone's buy-in, approval, whatever, right? And it's harder when we're younger. I get it, I was there, still there in some purviews, right? But when you let everything go and you realize, man, I'm the only person who can save myself, who can save others around me. Then you become, I am that guy, I'm the pillar. Maybe I have resources and tools, and others can be fed. Others can be, just know that there's safety and security around me. And safety and security may come from a 9 to 5, right? And that's why a lot of people, they prefer people with 9 to 5s for income and reliability and all this stuff, right? Because they want a happy, smooth life. And men and women are built different. Like biologically, women are safer, they're calmer, they're meant to be, coddled slash sheltered. But all these things is what? It's basically saying men protect, old school, right? Like in the caveman and all these times, we protect from like predators that come out if we're the prey, right? So men in general, from a biological standpoint, are not like, hey, I'm going to wake up and do a whole lot of the same thing every day. No. Back in the day, women would pick berries in the bushes, talk, socialize. That's why, when they say chatty Cathy, like there's probably some woman named Cathy out there, like a Karen, like the bad manager example, but like that is their day to day, and assuming no threats, like they're protected, right? They're in that same little bubble of, hey, everything's okay, it's dandy, whatever. It's like the same thing of living, hey, the AC's on, the fan's on, everything's chilling, I'm having a great time, sipping my pina colada or whatever, right? It's that kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's so easy to live back then, but I am saying that as men, they've needed to, let's say, be out in the forest for X number of days. I'm not going to say weeks, I wasn't there a part of the time, but there are long stretches of time where they don't see each other. And when they see each other, it's a great time. And when they see each other and they've gotten their prey, like food, literally like freaking food, man. They killed whatever livestock, whatever, the whole village can eat, right? And that's the whole thing of like, let's say we're programmed to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do and this is what I want to do. Some people, they want 10 kids. They want multiple wives. They want, a girlfriend in this country, a girlfriend in that country. They want this and that and the other. Some people that are broke they still make this goal happen, right? So if that's like your goal, I would say money is the easiest way. But some people, they're like, I'm going to spend the least amount of money and this is my goal and I'm going to do it. And they don't care what others are going to think about it. Who's happier in the end? The funny part is the guy with maybe a huge stack saved up, but maybe they don't like their day to day, versus the guy who's like, I have nothing, but I enjoy my day to day. This person's going to be basically happier, is the answer. And in society, we've created so many rules to entrap us, to just kind of keep us whatever the heck this means in English, right? Feels a little trapped. But really what it's saying is, hey, it's your choice, you can choose, but don't waste your time any longer in this video to say, hey, thanks for the video and I'm gonna leave now and I'm gonna, change my life, because that doesn't just happen. It happens when you accept it's gonna happen and you start putting in those steps. And if it's writing on paper just a few things of like, where you are today, where you want to be, like that, sometimes like a pros cons list can just change everything, because that simple just analysis decision can give you the strategy for the implementation for, I'm talking decades out. Been there, done that, and I'm telling you, guaranteed it works. So far, I haven't come here to say like, okay, I'm a 9 to 5er, I'm a minimum wage guy. What I've come here to say, to wrap us up, is that this video is sponsored by me. And basically, I'm not here to audition for anyone's approval. I've been in corporate America for 10 plus years, went to the best engineering schools in the world, all those like social labels. But what I've learned is like, okay, that's cool, bro, but like, I am not that guy. In other words, I'll work. I'm not above it. I'm not above getting minimum wage. I've been there. But what I'm looking for now is not just my wealth or my familial wealth, but creating a community to say, hey, you want to get wealthy, you want to be rich, whatever that version of life is, it's possible. So right now I've embarked in a project. It's a 250 hotel room. Okay, it's open to investment, which is why I'm mentioning it. Investments are from 15,000 USD to 3 million, just depending on where you are and where you're watching. That's the context. And basically, it's going to be 5 floors commercial, and the rest you have hotel rooms on top. And the whole angle is very simple. If I could buy any piece of a Marriott that's going to be built, a Wyndham Hotel, a Hyatt, an IHG, right? Any of these type of big brands, I would give you my money in an instant. I would love to get even a smidge of those cash flows that I deserve based on my investment for perpetuity. But you and me, the average folk, maybe you have connections, I don't, right? Let's say as much. So I can't get that, right? Or maybe you can, but it comes at a premium, or it's who you know and that person doesn't like you. I'm just saying, right? And they're like, I don't want your money. So the point is, I'm creating the deal. After being an investor in the stock market, the cryptocurrencies market, of course, real estate, and seeing that that's pretty much been the bread and butter from an appreciation perspective, from actual land, right? And then the actual cash flowing opportunity over here. The investment is nothing but where you will literally own land underneath of the building. So you're basically owning land. That land will be developed. So then you get land development like appreciation, and it's a commercial property, so you have even more. If somebody wants to buy, let's say, that piece of land, or you can buy a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, you buy that, it's basically like somebody's literally buying your equivalent of an apartment. And so it's a developed property. Just think like you're buying an apartment, selling an apartment. But the beauty is you have appreciation that's heavy, 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 because it's also a famous tourist area where this hotel is. But more than that, you get cash flows before construction is completed. That's the big sell here. Instead of me going to the bank and getting a huge jumbo loan and then some at commercial interest rates, which are higher than like residential or single family if you're just building for yourself. Basically, I'm like, yo, we can just crowdfund this, right? And we can do it together. So 50% plus is already from my side, but it's like, hey, if you want to be a part of it, it's not about this project today, it's about the long-term outlook. And you're looking at, hey, you don't want to be a part of this for the long term, it's okay. Get it developed 2-3 years out, flip it, you still make maybe 2-3 times your money, no guarantees, right? But that's kind of the projections, which are very realistic based on all the reasons that I just said. So all of that said, there's a link in the description below. Thank you for watching, thank you for coming to the end. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.